Greetings, Mind Crafters, and welcome to another Mindcraft episode today. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am here to be your hostess with the mostest. And really, what where my head is at today is we do a lot of focusing, I think, many of us anyway, on, looking for mistakes, not only in other people, but in ourselves, and we can focus on what we do wrong or the areas we need improvement in. And I'm not saying that we don't want to do that. We want to look for smaller incremental area, ways that we're improving. Just did an episode on that. I think that we also really, it's very important to really day to day think of something that we did right, something that we did well today on this day. And so my shout out today goes, I'm on a Richard Carlson jag again. Richard Carlson, PhD, author of the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff book series. There's a lot of them. And I like them because they're small and good for the day to day kind of, give yourself a lift kind of thing. And Richard talks about how we often, not only do we focus on the mistakes we made, but we kind of score keep it a little bit. We kind of keep track of, things that we did wrong or things that we need to improve on or phrase it however you want to during the day instead of, and I'm talking about consciously now, because remember when we're on autopilot, there's no bigger thief of life minutes. And autopilot in general tends to be negative. Why? Because we are predisposed to think negatively for the reasons we've discussed along our Minecraft podcast journey here, because we're very, it's a primal thing, very primitive thing for survival reasons. And so when we just kind of let our head go like that, it tends to score keep on, uh, mistakes, basically, is what I'm saying. And we can keep track of these. So we have to therefore make a conscious effort to say, hey, well, you know what? That conversation with that was going to be, I predicted to be super challenging, and we're not looking for perfect, right? We set the bar, do our best. That conversation with my boss or a colleague or with a young adult child or with an aging parent or whatever went way better than I would have hoped. Man, did I handle that well. They threw me a couple of curveballs in the conversation and, maybe tried to get my goat a little bit, or it was just challenging for different reasons. If it's your own child, and maybe it was like you had to deliver some information that maybe what might have been tough, that was in their best interest. And wow, did that go well? I handled that well. Wow, did I choose my battles? I let go of whatever it was issue and just focused in on what was really important. Kudos to me. I did well. And there's things we actually screw up, maybe um, we completely forgot a doctor appointment or dentist appointment or something like that, sports physical for the kid, and we screwed up, and now it's an issue because they're booked solid and we can't get back in there until 3 weeks from now or whatever like that. Screwed up a project at work, that important email, you got all wrapped up in traffic, and then you were so worked up when you got to, or worked up when you got to your place of employment, because maybe you had an extra 45 minutes because of construction, blah, blah, blah. We completely dropped the ball versus just falling short a little bit too. It's important to realize those. So maybe it's that same traffic thing or construction. You showed up a little late to your kid's soccer game. You didn't miss it, but you showed up a little late, because that's another thing we hang on to. We start to beat ourselves up as parents. Oh my gosh, I missed the first 20 minutes when yeah, you could have left earlier. So we beat ourselves about that. Um, Also, we can beat ourselves up over other people's reactions. We had that conversation and didn't expect somebody to be hurt by it or get angry with it. And all this stuff is what we're talking about. We score keep and hang on, and we don't often realize that we are, like landing in this. It's kind of like throwing it all in a big negativity bucket. And we're not saying to take accountability. Absolutely. We could have left earlier if we were late for whatever said meeting or soccer game, whatever. We could have left earlier and given ourselves more time, sure. So just own it and note to self, this made me feel really crappy and I feel like I disappointed my kid, or colleagues or boss or whatever. And so I'm not going to let that happen again to the best of my ability. And I'm going to give myself more time to the best of my ability. And then Richard Carlson, PhD, says, now shift gears. It is like a shift. I picture a gear shift, and that's kind of like what it is, right? Shift gears and think about how often you give yourself credit for doing something right. If you're like the vast majority of people I know, your ratio of criticisms to compliments is going to be weighed heavily towards the negative. And then Richard says, you might be thinking, oh, everyone is like that. What's the big deal? It's only human. This assumption is partially true. Unfortunately, most people are like that. Most people do focus excessively on their mistakes and pitfalls, but that doesn't make it a good idea. The problem is, most people don't understand the price they're paying for this excessive focus on the negative. Oh, is that absolutely true? He says the price I'm referring to is stress and an uptight, self defeating, and rigid experience of life. And, again, accountability versus self deprecation, there's quite a big difference. Because when we authentically, very authentically take accountability that we screwed up, showed up late, did this, did that, fell short, dropped the ball, then we don't reside there. When it's authentic, we just nail it. We might have to say it to other people, depending on, might be just in our own head because we know we messed up. And if it was worthy of a conversation with to rectify things, good. But then, okay, you're human and let it go. So I took accountability. I'm not going to say, oh, whatevs, and continue to do it. I'm going to do the best I can to make sure it doesn't happen again, the best I can, and then to move forward because we need to realize that life is full of mistake making. We all do it. We're not perfect, not going to be perfect, and that's who says that? Anne Shafe. I say that a lot. Anne Shafe says perfection is self abuse of the highest order. So we're not looking for perfectionism. We're looking to set the bar and do our best and really authentically work at that. That's what we're talking about. Not beating ourselves with a spiked guilt club, or spiked shame club. That's not what we're after here. Accountability, forgiving of the self and maybe other people, whoever's involved, letting it go, moving forward, striving to do your best and accept ourselves with all of our imperfections. Accept ourselves with all of our imperfections. And I think it's also to realize that life is, I mean, okay, first of all, we're not perfect people, right? We talked about that just now. We are imperfect beings. And the other thing is, uh, because we have humanity in there. The other thing is life has gotten really fast, right? We have a very media saturated, fast paced society where it's just really full. And there's the whole, technology, we are available usually 24/7 and everybody else is available to us 24/7. So the stimulation rate or intensity is really, really high, right? Because we feel like we're never really off the grid, where it's just constant, 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 constant. So with so much interaction and so many meetings, especially with the way things are now, we can have meetings virtually. It's not like you just didn't go in today and you missed it all. They say, oh well, okay, we can send you a link. It's just constant, constant, constant. So with all of those meetings, appointments, all the interaction and with human beings, other human beings, there's going to be mistakes no matter what we try to do. Just like with the gazillions of cars out there driving around, no matter how good of a driver someone is, there's bound to be accidents. Small, medium, large is bad because it's just the statistics, right? There's cars moving around constantly with all kinds of variables, and that isn't different with human interaction, all the externals that happen, and the potential for mistakes. And so when we accept this also, I think, helps us to really realize how we may need to make a concerted effort to shift towards something we did right on this day. So, all that was a way to say, cut yourself some slack because Richard says focusing on what you do wrong encourages you to sweat the small stuff. It puts your attention on all that is wrong with yourself and the world and makes you feel less than okay, even incompetent. That's important because we've talked a lot with our Mindcraft podcast, right? That where we place our attention is where our energy goes. Where we place our attention is where our energy goes. So if we're placing our attention on the mistakes we're making, where we're falling short and dropping the ball, that's where our energy is going to go. It's just residing in all the ways we don't measure up, which leads to feelings of how we don't measure up, right? Feeling flawed and defective, and that's shame. Okay, and guilt's closely related, but a little different. And so we got to be really careful. So now in this Minecraft journey, when we know that thoughts come first, feelings second, and actions or behaviors third, realize that we can't feel as if we don't measure up unless we think thoughts on how we don't measure up first. That's a fact. That's just how it works. And so Richard continues, he said, negative focus generates negative energy. Yes, it does. And I believe feeds into negative behavior. Spot on. It reminds you of problems, hassles, and inconveniences, and makes you feel uptight and encourages you to be critical and hypersensitive. So, of course, the reverse is also true because wherever we place our focus, our attention and intention is where the energy goes. When we shift our focus, again, a little bit of an uphill, rolling the snowball uphill, right? Um, Onto whatever we did right. One thing, start with one thing. Or, that dinner went really well. Wow. I tried a new recipe, and it went really well. And the family liked it, or my partner liked it, or I liked it, right? Maybe it's just you home. Give yourself that because this also attracts more positive thinking, which then leads to more positive feelings, which then attracts more positive things to happen, right? So more positivity. It reminds us that we are competent and that we do have good intentions. And Richard said it encourages you to give yourself a break and to make allowances for the few little things you do wrong or need improvement on. When you remind yourself of the things you do right, it helps you to become a more patient person with yourself and with others. Now that's important too, because just like when we talk about mindfulness and that whole non-judgmental component to mindfulness, just like anything else we practice, right? We get better at it no matter what it is. So, therefore, when we practice patience, right? Practice patience. And again, this is not one of the, I have a lot of gifts in my, say the good Lord put a lot of gifts in my gift bag, when I arrived on this earth. Though one of them is not patience. So I'm a work in progress with that. And also, so practicing patience, practicing non-judgment, practicing acceptance, just like practicing skiing, cooking, the violin, whatever, we eventually get better at whatever it is we practice or rehearse, and it gets easier to maintain. So this is important because when we shift into or lean into this idea of consciously pulling something into our consciousness each day that we did right, that went well, it's going to sort of bring more confident thoughts, more positive thoughts, more competence thinking, attract more positivity. And it also helps with, he says, rather than seeing yourself as a mistake maker, you'll see yourself, and he has parentheses, and everyone else too, as a character who's doing the best you know how, right? So that with the whole patience, non-judgment, acceptance thing, once we start getting better with that for ourselves, it becomes easier for us to be patient, less judgmental, and better apt to let go of things with others too. So it's just like a win-win-win. So for today, let's do a little activity. For today, before you go to sleep at night, or maybe when you just get into bed and you're drifting off, for today, bring one thing into your consciousness that you did well, that went right. And this is also a good way to prime your day for tomorrow, actually, because the brain is awake 24/7. So you bring that positivity into your focus, your chances of waking up and having things start out positively are also significantly increased. Awesome. Okay, this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.